Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the HSMAI live show, Tuesday live show. I'm Philippe and I work for American Express, where I lead the strategic partnerships for hospitality in Europe. And I'm also a member of the HSMAI Europe Marketing and Branding Advisory Board. And today, I have the great privilege to be the moderator for what promises to be not only an exciting discussion, but also a very insightful conversation about post-COVID customer behavior in the hospitality industry. And to talk about this exciting topic, we have two wonderful guests today. We've got Julien Barré and Saurabh Bhargava, who are going to introduce themselves in a minute. But before they do that, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping and draw your attention around antitrust principles, guidelines, and rules, which you will now see on the screen. And I will not read out these in full, but I would like to simply remind you that certain topics are not proper subjects for discussion in our gathering and meetings. And also, we should also keep in mind that some members of this community might be competitors. So, subsequently, certain topics should not be discussed. I would also like to remind you that these sessions, Tomorrow Start Now, which is actually quite a good name for the topic of today, with HSMAI Europe, are happening every single Tuesday between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. CET, 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. CET. And next week's session is going to be, around direct distribution tactics, leading to recovery. So, I strongly invite you to attend this session. And I would also like to remind you that next Thursday, actually this Thursday on the 6th of May, the HSMAI Europe Sales Leader Forum will start at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., CET. So feel free to just go on the website of HSMAI and, have a look at the agenda and, register, of course. Before we start, I would also like to invite you in the audience, to ask questions, make any kind of comments or remarks in the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. We want to hear from you. So, but now, let's dive into the conversation and, let's give our wonderful guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. Who wants to start?
I can go ahead, yeah, Philippe. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you all, guys. So I'm Julien. I'm the Director of Revenue and Reservation at Hotel de Crillon in Paris, based in Paris. And I'm also overlooking the European region since last year. The European region, which includes obviously Paris, a property in London, and a beautiful resorts in Tuscany. Europe for the Rosewood Hotel Group is a great focus at the moment for the next 4 and 5 years, as we're opening Madrid by the end of this year, in October exactly. Next year, we're opening a beautiful property in Vienna in June. And then we'll follow other properties and cities like Amsterdam, Munich, Venice, Sardinia, another one in London based in Mayfair, and a few others which are under analysis. So, and finally, I'm also a member of the HSMAI advisory board for the revenue optimization. Thank you.
Great. Well, that's a lot of activity, for, a period like the one we are going through currently. Thank you very much for this. Glad to hear all these great news. Saurabh?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me on this panel. I am the commercial director for the Taj Group of Hotels based in London for UK and Ireland. We are a large Indian-based organization with a very large footprint in the Indian subcontinent, and some key hotels in key international destinations like London, New York, Dubai, and Cape Town. So I'm very happy to join this chat and present our point of view, and hopefully it'll be a interactive chat, and there will be some questions coming in from the audience, and it'll be great to hear the larger point of view of everybody else who's on the call, because we're all on it in this together, and we all need to find a solution to get out of it as we can. Thank you for that.
No, thank you, Saurabh. And I think that's a great point, right? We don't have a crystal ball, and we are starting to see some trends and new behaviors emerging. But obviously, everyone in the audience, would have a view on this, and you probably would have, some contributions to make. So, Julien, you're based in Paris, and Saurabh, you're based in London. So we're going to have a view, from both continental Europe and the UK. Which is great. So, basically what we want to do today is, we want to talk about, as I said, a couple of things that, we have been observing so far in terms of how this crisis has led to, new type of behaviors. And of course, without, being too rigid, we want to talk about these, in different categories. Maybe we want to talk about the corporate travel and the business travel behaviors that we've been observing. We also want to talk about, the leisure travel and the consumer travel aspect of things. Then I'd like to talk about, and to hear you guys more than me talking about, what domestic travel means, because it seems that domestic travel is actually here to stay. And then, to finish, I think, maybe it would be great to have a discussion around what all these type of new behaviors have created in terms of modifying how hotels are working, operating, interacting, either internally with or with their customers. So I think the consequences of all of these, that'd be great. But before talking about the future, let's talk about now, actually. And because I have you guys here today, I'd like to hear from you about, where you think the industry is currently. So, in other words, in what shape is the industry right now, according to you? How would you describe the current situation 1 year after the pandemic started?
Okay, let me take a punt at that. As you said, we don't have the crystal ball to really, forecast what's going to happen. But I think the industry is in certain parts of the world at the lowest ebb that it can be, and the optimistic thing is that the only way from here is up. It has to improve. It will improve, and I'm looking at it that it can't get worse than where we are, or where we were maybe 30 days ago. So there are luckily some green shoots coming out. There are some rays of hope, but what keeps happening is the goalposts and the timelines keep changing because of various restrictions and the mutations of the virus. This is something none of us were prepared for. None of us had a plan for. So there's no historical data to go back to see how did we come out of a certain crisis like this. So my feeling is that we are at the lowest ebb. We should be going up from now. And we are seeing that trend of occupancies, and some businesses for future started getting booking in. But again, there are a lot of caveats on it, a lot of ifs and do's and don'ts on it. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, thank you, Saurabh.
I'm on my side. I'm pretty optimistic because when you're taking a look at other regions, like obviously, Europe is not leading the race for the moment at the moment. But when you're taking a look at Asia, China, for instance, and the US, they are more or less at 80% of the occupancy they had in 2019, so before pre-COVID. Which is the good news, and that's driven by a strong domestic market. So for the moment, they will for another while, keep a plateau in terms of occupancy before being able to welcome again the international clientele. The resorts in the Caribbean, for instance, in the West Coast, they did amazing figures over the last months. Some of them, they did the best figures for since 10 years. So that's why I'm pretty optimistic. The Middle East as well is just behind China and the US. Europe, for the moment, as I said, it's pretty slow. And within Europe, UK is leading the race at the moment. And just below them, you have Spain, but that's not because of the main cities like Barcelona or Madrid, but that's thanks to the islands because of the resorts, more space, less people at the moment. And then are following Paris, Paris, France, Italy, and the other countries in Europe. So I'm pretty optimistic. It's still very quiet in Europe at the moment, especially for urban properties. But from December and from September onwards, it should be ramping up quite quickly. There's a lot of pent-up demand out there, and people are ready to travel. They've been looking at different destinations for the last weeks and months, so they know where they're going. They want to go. They're ready to travel. They're just waiting for the restrictions to be lifted.
I think if I can just add one more point
Sure.
on that, it was a very good piece of encouraging news yesterday when they announced that the EU ministers are getting together to make a intra-EU countries travel easier for people who've been vaccinated. I think things like that, measures like that taken by proactive governments and tourism bodies will go a great way to lead the recovery for those countries. If that happens, I think Europe will quickly jump onto the bandwagon and reach a fairly decent occupancy and revival rate very soon.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important point. The environment or the regulatory environment and is critical in this area. And also, I would say that we could be in the same situation today without having a vaccine. And even though the vaccination coverage is different from one country to another or one region to another, we do have a vaccine, and we can observe that where the coverage and the vaccination coverage is getting better, then the situation is getting better. I was also watching an interview of Sébastien Bazin, the CEO of Accor, who was actually saying, a year ago, 90% of my hotels were all closed. And today, 90% of my hotels are either open or about to reopen very, very shortly, which is a very good sign and quite encouraging, actually. I wanted to ask you a question about this because, until recently, what we are seeing when observing consumer behaviors, when they had the ability to travel, the booking process was starting actually 2 days or 2, 3, 4 days before they actually travel. And what speaking with people from the industry, what I'm hearing is that now people are anticipating and are doing more advanced booking for July and August. Some people are saying that in some regions it's actually very hard to find availability in July and August. Is it something that you've been observing as well?
Yes, I think that's a trend that's coming in. While corporate travel is going to be booked 48 hours to 72 hours in advance, on a Monday you'll decide to fly on a Wednesday or a Thursday, but leisure, as you rightly said, is a little more long term. People are booking 60, 90 days out. But the most important thing is that hotels like us need to give them flexibility in terms of both cancellation and in terms of refunding if we've taken any deposits. So it could be a refund, it could be a credit note, but most consumers have been bitten once during the first and second lockdown, where their monies were stuck for a long time with third-party partners or airlines or hotels, where the processing, refunds took a long time. So people are very scared to put credit card numbers on their booking forms right now. So what we need to do is give them as much flexibility as
think you're.
Yeah, that was a good point. And obviously, the first criteria, and that's from an STR analysis, the first criteria which stops the travelers to book at the moment is the border closures and the travel restrictions. But then, secondly, comes the flexibility and the cancellation policy and the reform following this cancellation policy. So that's pretty interesting. But I also spoke to an Expedia market manager who told me a month ago that they're seeing Expedia the non-refundable rate started again being booked for the summer and for later this year, which is quite unexpected and quite interesting to see. I believe it depends on the level of the rating of the hotels. On the high end, because that's where I'm specialized with Rosewood. I totally agree with Saurabh. I mean, the key at the moment is flexibility, and people are ready to book right now as long as they can cancel by 24 or 48 hours prior arrival.
Okay, no, I think that makes sense. And just to finish on this, state of the industry currently, just wanted to share that there's been a survey, a study released by Amex recently, about 2 months ago, which is actually public and available on the website, where respondents were surveyed about their intent to travel, in multiple countries. In the US, Canada, Mexico, India, the UK, and a couple of other ones. And what was interesting is that a vast majority, when I say a vast majority, I think we're talking about almost 80% of respondents said that, they wanted to travel so much that they are actually creating wish list of destinations they want to travel to. It's like us doing a to-do list for work, but they are doing a to-do list for travel, probably the coolest to-do list ever. So the intention is here, the willingness is here, and I think that, we can see some interesting and encouraging signals. So why don't we move on to the business travel, discussion more specifically? We all know that business travel and corporate travel have been more than severely impacted by this crisis. And if you remember well, towards the end of 2020, Bill Gates has made a very controversial statement. He said that 50% of business travel would actually disappear in a post-COVID world, which has created a lot of reactions, a lot of emotional reactions. Some people said, no, it's not 50%, it's 40%, or it's 20% or 15%. Some other people said, no, actually, we're going to go back to 2019 levels, but it's going to take time. So what's your view on this when you think about business travel?
I can start with this one. We know that business travel will take more time than the leisure one to recover and to get back to the 2019 level. For instance, we have to wait at least for 2025 when the leisure level, the 2019 level, might recover by 2023, 2024. That being said, I strongly believe that the business travel will continue, but in another way. We've made some studies with the Rosewood Group and other big brands, and the big brands we were working with, they're thinking to change their way of traveling. So basically, and that's for the moment some assumptions and just the start of the thinking, but instead of going to different regions of the world on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, they will work as blocks. So, for instance, they think, okay, for January, we'll move kind of our offices to Asia, to Shanghai, for instance, and we'll do our appointments for during the next 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We stay there, and we'll spend more time with our guests, with the people over there, and we'll have more time as well to our daily works, rather than going. And Saurabh will speak better than me, but sales, when you're going on sales trip, you have like 2, 3, 4 days. It's a rush. It's difficult to catch up on your emails. So they're thinking on being based for a little while in a region of the world, and then after 2, 3, 4 weeks, moving to another region with another team. But at least they're spending more time, taking more. The relation with people taking more importance as well, and you're spending less time in the plane as well.
Very interesting. So it's about having moving teams, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in our case, I think in our view, it is more to do with what kind of a brand you are. I think nothing can take away face-to-face selling or contact with your consumer. Whether you're in the retail industry or the hospitality industry, face-to-face is not going to go away. And not because people have been last 1.5 years using online systems, they're not going to stop going to the Selfridges and the JCPenney's and the large stores of the world. That's going to stay, but this will coexist. So even in situation of hospitality, face-to-face meetings will coexist with online meetings. Maybe Bill Gates has a crystal ball to say it's going to go down by 40-50%. I don't think so. Maybe yes, there will be a reduction, but the good side is that the length of stay will be longer. As Julien just mentioned, if someone was going on a 2-day trip, will now become a 4-day trip, because you'll want to achieve more once you're on that plane or once you're in that destination, because you want to take, you want to make the most of the time you're spending away from home or away from your home base or your office base. So that's a trend. Also, I think in business travel, other than hospitality industry and maybe a couple of more, most other industries have actually made better money in 2021 that they had made in the previous years. Be it automobile, be it pharmacy, be it healthcare, be it sports industry, be it IT, they've all online distribution. They've made more money, so they would want to reward their employees. They would want to reconnect the teams again as things open up. So business travel will come back. Will it be 3 months or 6 months later? That's something to be seen. We haven't heard from any of our large corporate customers that they are going to ban travel or not travel in the near future. And I think another thing that we could slice the industry in the corporate travel is by large corporates and medium size and small size corporates. Large corporates who have presence in different parts of the world and different cities may reduce travel because they now you have a presence in that market. Medium or small scale entrepreneur will have to travel because he doesn't have the bandwidth to have representation in every region of the world. So again, the small and the medium size companies will start traveling faster than the larger ones.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So basically what you're saying is that, yes, the behaviors will be changing for big companies,
yes, for sure.
And they're probably going to be revisiting, how they define what a necessary business trip is or means. But at the same time, it's not going to go away. And whilst they have evolved, and, we've heard a lot of things around the duty of care for big companies, willing to make sure that their employees were not going to be, put in risky situations. They will continue to do that, and the length of stay will be longer, which I think is a good thing. Those day trip are, truly exhausting. But I think so the behaviors are going to be changing, but it will continue to happen. And to your point, SMEs, small companies and small businesses tend to be more resilient. And also because, they don't have the choice most of the time. They don't have, the liquidity, the cash that big companies may have. So, they may continue to travel and to start to travel again earlier compared to the big corporations. I'm sorry, Julien, you wanted to say something?
No, yeah, the negative impact, I believe, will be for the airline industry and the train industry, because for sure, where I do agree with Bill Gates with the 50% drop is for the daily trips. A round trip Paris, London, Paris definitely is not going to happen as much as before. And that's where companies would prefer having a Teams or a Zoom call, Zoom meeting for a day rather than taking the train or taking a flight for just within the same day, and that's it will have a major impact on that kind of business.
I think the only other thing that we need to be worried and educate and be wary of is that hopefully large corporates, even when they start travel again, do not put very complex processes of approval of travel for their staff because of duty of care and other reasons. I have seen some organizations making it difficult for people to get approvals to travel. In some cases, going up right to the CXO level. Even for a London Paris trip. So if that happens, then it will discourage people to get onto planes, trains, and cars to travel across the for business trips. So we just need to be a little wary of that. And if that happens, we need to have some counter measures in place on how we can make it simpler and seamless for them to travel.
Yeah. So what it means basically is that they will have to revisit their travel policy.
Yes, and there we need super support from people like you, Philippe.
Yes, we'll be helping them. Okay, great. Hey, I have a question, and maybe it's obvious. It's actually not entirely obvious to me, but what about the future of meeting and events?
So, future of meeting and events is again an upward climb. The first step is going to be hybrid meetings, where there will be certain people on site and certain people virtually attending meetings. But meetings will come back for sure, especially when you're trying to do team building exercises and you're trying to revamp the business and replan, re-strategize the entire year. So hybrid meetings are important. I think hotels like ours and everybody else on the listening in should start investing and looking at technology to enable that at the property, because that's going to be a key factor for people to decide what kind of a hotel they finally choose to stay in. So meetings and events will come back. They'll be in a changed form. There will be, in terms of, there won't be any buffets. There'll be table service. You'll have to, pre-test everybody, lateral flow tests, take temperature control, have a dedicated hotel staff team to service a particular meeting, because then it's easier to do track and trace. So the whole the social way we do these meetings will change. We may not have gala nights every evening of drinking in a bar and making till 4 a.m. But the rest of it will come back, and I think slowly that will also change from 50-50 to 70% live and 30% virtual. That's the trend, and that's the path I see it taking. Julien?
Yeah, I completely agree. What we've been seeing, that all the groups meeting and events which were confirmed in 2020, 2021, most of them postponed to 2022, 2023, which is a good sign. And they, after talking to the contacts, to the agencies as well, they will continue traveling. They will travel less, but they still have the same budget for a specific trip. They might stay longer, which is the kind of same trend as the corporate was just talking about, and same trend for leisure as well. They might stay a bit longer. They will have the same budget, and they might spend a bit more on other experiences because they're traveling less. They might spend more on the 1 or 2 trips they will do per year.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And I had a question for you as well when it comes to behaviors in the survey I was talking about earlier on. What we have found out, and especially for the luxury segment, we have found out that there was at least it's an intent, a rise of the digital nomad behavior, where you're both an individual, traveling, but also a business person, you're traveling for business. So in other words, you're someone who lives and works while traveling, which to some extent can be compared to leisure type of behaviors. Do you see this happening already, or do you anticipate something like this? Or is it pure science fiction?
No, I don't think it's science fiction for sure. There is a trend coming in where people are actually trying to fix meetings in the cities, maybe on a Wednesday, Thursday, and then stay back on a Friday, Saturday, fly in the family or get in the family at the end of this business part of the tour, and then stay in a city. But I think for this trend to really take its really take off, we need the environment to start supporting the fact that this is possible in terms of restaurants need to start opening, theaters, musical, sport events. Let's take the example of London or Paris. Why would someone want to come to this city, not to stay in the hotel? The actual event, the experience is the theater or a Michelin star restaurant meal, or some kind of entertainment. So if the environment starts helping us, I think this trend can continue in a big way and see some it can be a real green shoot for the industry eventually. So that is important for us. And I think the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we need to promote the destination. We need to promote the city, and for that, I think we need the support of tourism boards, like Visit UK or Visit London, or Visit Bonjour France. Those are the kind of people who we need to partner with, and as an industry, sell the destination. If the destination becomes popular, all of us will benefit from it. So
okay.
I think we need to now put in a caps of looking at the bigger picture for the industry and for the city, rather than individual properties.
Okay, and do you see any other new usages in terms of business travel? Like booking a hotel for a day, or what we call about everybody keeps talking about work hospitalization, or big companies maybe being headquartered in costly cities like London or Paris, where they would finally realize that it's hard for them to have a meeting in their offices because the meeting spaces are too small. Are they not going to use hotel meeting rooms, which are much more appropriate for that purpose? In other words, are we not going to see new usages appearing in this area?
Julien, do you want to take that first?
Too early.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead, Saurabh.
Okay, so I think the initial trends are showing that people are looking at private workspaces. Shared workspaces are maybe, at least in the short term, a thing of the past. People are not very comfortable getting into, and I may just use generically a space like WeWorks. And people don't want to share that space, so they're looking at individual cabins or individual spaces to work in. As you rightly said, in London, many large companies have actually downscaled their office premises, or if they start getting staff back, each staff is not at a 2 meters distance. So they are looking at these alternate short-term options for the next 3 to 6 months, as taking space in hotels, either meeting rooms or individual rooms, for having their staff based out of those places for the near future. I mean, which could be 90 days or 120 days till the time things get better. So that's one trend that we're seeing. We are seeing a trend of takeaway foods happening a lot in terms of the city. So even if you have a meeting at your office, you would eventually carry in food from one of the properties which are close by, or one of the restaurants. So that's the second trend, because takeaway is becoming big, and I think it's something here to stay over the next few years. It's not going to go away. So we need to gear up to be able to compete with the standalone restaurants around us, with the Deliveroo's and the Uber Eats. And I think more and more we are seeing people coming in to a trusted brand, and we'll talk about that later. So let Julien, I think, give his point of view on that too.
Sure. Yeah, we're seeing two complete different trends. One obvious one, I mean, corporate, they don't want to spend more money, so they pushing for to work remote. And other ones were renting, especially in the top cities like London, Paris. They were renting some, buildings or apartments, and the cost is too high. And they're thinking at more flexibility moving forward, because other crises like this will happen again for sure, and they're thinking to be more flexible. meaning that if they're renting a flat, not a flat, but a suite in a hotel, might cost a bit more compared to the rent, but they're more flexible. They can stop one day to another. They can negotiate as well. They might have a better bargain compared to the current rent. But that's the two different trends we're seeing currently.
That's interesting. In other words, like the hospitality industry, they want to have an asset light approach, which will give them, the agility they need to survive in a challenging environment. Now, thank you very much. I think it's very interesting, all these new trends happening in the corporate world, and especially, these. It's not so much will people stop traveling. It's more, how will they be traveling in the future, which is obviously interesting. So let's move to the consumer space and to the leisure travel. And I think that, you will probably agree with me, but these crises will have profoundly modified our behaviors. I was reading an article the other day in the New York Times. It was called "Welcome to the YOLO Economy." You only live once, and it was about people revisiting their priorities, their work priorities, but also their life priorities, and willing to change job. It was not about moving to an island and stop working. It was really what kind of work do I want to have? Where do I want to live? And when you think about remote work, it's about that as well, right? People are willing to live in other places, and it's going to have multiple consequences on real estate, transportation, the way companies are organized. So I think our behaviors have been profoundly modified, and it's probably the case as well when it comes to traveling as an individual. Can you share with me one very significant change in behavior on the consumer space that you would have observed or that you anticipate in the near future?
On the leisure side, I would say the staycations, but towards two angles. The first one is a new specific segment we've been seeing. People, especially for the high-end properties, people were not used to go to this kind of properties. They haven't been able to travel for the last 6 or 12 months. They have money on the side, and they're willing to get entertained within their region, and they're willing to discover something new. And some properties had some nice offers out there on the market, and they decided to take advantage of these offers. So they spent the night, use the room service, maybe the spa, the swimming pool, and that's the kind of guest that we're not going to see anymore. Not only Rosewood, but other brands. We're not going to see anymore on the hotel side, but that's the type of guest who will win the loyalty for the other outlets, like the spa. They will come back to the spa. They will come back to the F&B outlets, the restaurants, the bars, and that's the kind of guests who were maybe impressed to enter a big luxury properties because of lots of people, lots of wealthy people, and now because over the pandemic the property was a bit quiet, they decided to move forward and to take this take this experience. That was the first angle, and that's moving forward. That's definitely a new segment we'll have to work on to win the loyalty on the other outlets. And then the second angle is.
So I'm sorry, Julien. Yeah. Julien, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I understand. So we're talking about segment of population, segment of customers that you would never have had in the first place if the crisis had not happened. So at least there's something good about this. So what are you intending to do then? You intend to make those new customers, newly acquired customers, loyal to your brand, not to stay in the hotel, but for other type of services, as you said, the spa, the restaurants, or whatever. And do you see this as a challenge for you to make this cohabitation between existing, you mentioned wealthy customers, and those new type of customers, or Shouldn't it be an issue?
No, because international clientele, when traveling abroad, they want to spend some time in local places with local people, and that's important to have this mix of clientele. And moving forward, that's that's something that we've been working on for the last years. But that's a key point. This mixture of clientele, locals, international, and that's important. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sorry, so you're going to try to retain those customers, but do you also have the intent to continue to try and acquire these new segment, this new type of customers, even when the pandemic disappears?
Yes, indeed. That's why it's important to be dynamic, to be creative on the F&B outlets, on the bars, creating new pop-ups on the terraces, for instance, creating new surprises, new happenings on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. Something they're waiting for. I'm waiting for the jazz evening every Tuesday. I'm waiting for any specific events that they know is going to happen regularly, basically.
That's great. Saurabh, do you also see
so just if I remember, the question was about the new consumer trends or behavior that has changed.
Yes.
So I think we should all realize that there is a huge economic and a social impact of this pandemic over the last 15, 16 months. Economically, we've all been seeing what's happening, the devastation and the changes in fortune of many organizations, especially in our industry. So that is something we need to be aware of. Plus, there's a whole social impact of this pandemic, which is going to be carrying on for the next generation, which is the way we travel, the way we look at things, the way we book, the way we prepare for our, way we do information search for travel or for our holidays. So that is something that is going to stay for this generation because the impact has been quite long. So that's one thing that we need to be aware of and study. And these new trends based on this new social norm are still emerging. So there are some trends which are emerging, some are still coming in. So we need to watch and learn. And as Julien said, be agile to adapt to them as fast as we can. For example, everybody wants to do contactless check-ins now. The more we digitize, the better it is. The fast, as an organization, our digitalization plan, which was for 2025, has been pulled forward and has to be implemented in 2021 because the consumer is not going to wait 4 years for us to change. It has to be now because that's the need of the hour. So that's another trend. And I think another very interesting trend, and I see it's an opportunity for companies like ours and Rosewood and not the largest chains of the world, we are seeing a trend of the consumer buying directly from the hotel or on the hotel website, which is good news for our revenue lines. Good news for our bottom lines that people are coming direct because obviously they feel a little more safe and secure to buy from a trusted brand directly. And actually, it's also the number of questions they have currently, at least for the next 1 year. Am I allowed to do this? Can I step out? Can I book this? Can I book that? What are the rules and regulations of each city, each region? So they are more comfortable booking direct. And that's an opportunity for us to convert these consumers into long-term loyal customers of the organization who keep booking direct with us. Because there's always going to be, I'm not, for no minute am I saying that the third-party partners are, not needed. They will coexist. But hopefully over the next couple of years, there'll be a more equitable distribution of business. Right now, most of us were over 50% of our or 60% of our business came from these avenues. But now we need to really,
yes.
My CFO and head of our company, they get very excited when we show them numbers that now from 30 to 50% of our business is on direct channels. Will it sustain? We don't know. We don't know if it'll sustain because I'm sure everybody is going to put their muscle power to win their consumer back. But at the end of the day, it's cost of doing business. So we need to be, that's a positive trend I'm seeing, and I hope it continues, and we will hopefully support that as we go ahead.
Yes, I hadn't thought about this, but now that you're saying this, it makes sense. I mean, because of the complexity of the situation, because there are so many unanswered questions, for the customer, it makes sense for them to reach out to the hotel directly. The question will be, will the hospitality industry be able to, leverage this opportunity and translate it into a, loyal direct customer versus a customer, working with another player. You also mentioned
just jump quickly on Saurabh's note. I totally agree on the direct bookings, but I mean, properties, they need to evolve digitally. Because to attract more people on their website, they will need to be more present, and they will be to be innovative as well. Because a lot of hotels, brands are doing the same in terms of digital campaign through Instagram, through Facebook, or any other apps. And so it's really the time to be present on the digitally, or if you're already present, be innovative to make the difference, and to transfer all the spend and demand and all the people looking at specific offer, brands, or experience to your proper website.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think digital marketing is becoming extremely important, and eventually content is king. So whichever property or chain can put out some great content, that's what the consumer is going to bite. So it could be influencers, it could be bloggers, it could be some, we need to just think differently. We need to think out of the box. That adding a 5% commission is not going to win the battle for us.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, right? I mean, this digital aspect of the business has always been here, and the world was already digital, especially in the hospitality industry. But I think we've moved to another stage, right? I mean, over the past 12 to 14 months, we have been, working in a totally digital environment. Whether it's about work, it's how we buy, schooling, and for the ones who have young kids at home, I'm sure they know, what I'm talking about. So the citizen has become more digital, more than the consumer only, right? So I think hospitality players are going to have to take that into account and to become fully digital. And I'm tempted to believe that, if you're not digital, you don't exist, basically. Okay, great. I had a question around, the behaviors and the booking behaviors. People are talking about trends where, they want to stay away from the crowd, basically. And for that reason, some consumers are actually interested in, staying in less known cities or in smaller cities, going to Porto instead of Lisbon, going to Wellington instead of Auckland. Do you see this happening, and do you see this as an opportunity or more like a big disruptive change? Because do you have any hotels over there? Is it going to have an impact on hotel development pipeline, on how you redefine your offer? Do you see this trend happening, and how do you deal with this?
Yeah, on the resorts, we think whether it's in Europe or in the Caribbean, we're seeing a higher length of stay, a long length of stay, same buying power, but people, as I said at the beginning, for Spain and the Canary Islands and the other islands, people are willing for space, more space. They're looking for secondary destination as well. And I just saw an interesting group of 4 people based in Lyon who are working on creating a new brand based only in secondary and third destinations in small villages, small cities in France. And they're looking to open around 50 properties within the next 5 or 6 years, because they strongly believe it's a new trend. traveling to nowhere basically, and to have space, less people, and to discover new destination basically.
Yeah, interesting.
I think that's interesting what Julien is saying, and the trends that we are seeing, and if we can just put some names to them, is the emerging trend of rural tourism, where people want to go to the back of beyond and experience nature in its full glory, and rather than going into a large city and enjoying the shows. Then also the other trend is people are looking at greener destinations. People have become very conscious of the sustainability and the impact on environment that they have. So if as brands and properties we can talk about the sustainability, that would be a great tool and a marketing. I won't call it a gimmick, but a marketing tagline for us. And I think the other thing that we are seeing is people are looking at private transportation rather than getting onto a plane and a train. So if you are a few hours away from a large city, that's a great position to be in the current, at least for the next couple of years, if I can say that. And as you rightly said, Philippe, the entire acquisition or the model for hotels, when they go to acquire assets or manage assets, the city ones may take a hold for some time, and it's if you're looking for quick wins, then taking something in a rural destination or a greener destination will show your organization quicker returns. But long term, cities will come back. We cannot keep people away from London or from Paris. Eventually they will all come back, if not today, tomorrow. It is, those are the couple of things that we are noticing and we are trying to cater to. If you ask if we've changed our long-term strategy, we haven't, but we've added the greener and the rural tourism part into our strategy. But the long-term goal remains the same.
No, that's interesting. Just being conscious of time, would there be any other behaviors in the consumer space, in the leisure travel that you would have taken into account?
No, I think people are just conscious about how hotels are communicating with them in the leisure space, and how chains are communicating their health and hygiene policies. We all know the basics were always there in properties, but that's become the forefront of the messaging today. That we are so COVID secure. We've got the AA rating. In our company, we've redefined what we call Tajness, the way we do our experiences at the property. So people want to see that upfront, at least for the next 6 months, if I may say that, and then it'll start tapering off. Small things like if you tell a consumer that I'm holding the room for 48 hours before we allocate it again, just gives them reassurance. Not that 24 or 48 hours is going to make a great difference, but that's the reassurance you need to give them. So we need to build the confidence back in the consumer. We need to do all our communication to build that confidence back for them to start traveling.
Yeah, I will say the experience, that's something that needs to be highlighted, and that's something that will make the difference moving forward. And that's also the answer to a question we have in the chat, which was, how will TMC, or the travel management company, change focus post-COVID? And that's the same answer. They will have, first of all, to promote the destination before promoting the specific property, as you said earlier, Saurabh. And then they will have also to focus on the experience, to create some partnerships with other strong brands, to surprise the guests, and that's gonna make the difference moving forward.
And if I may just add, one of the key things that TMC partners could play a role in is to keep if they're doing end-to-end travel for a consumer, either business or leisure, they will be able to do track and trace for everybody. So the consumer doesn't need to do his track and trace at every touch point that he goes to, hotel, airline, transport, sightseeing. If there's a TMC at the back end managing that travel, they will have the entire track and trace, and they'll be able to do better duty of care than individual properties or individual suppliers. So that's something TMCs could look at and focus on.
Yeah. Okay. Great. 1 hour is not enough, actually. I just a yes or no answer, maybe. So domestic travel for the moment seems to be here to stay, right? Inbound is not coming back yet, or not substantially. Do you see, the domestic portion of the business remaining dominant within the next couple of years?
Absolutely. If I may just add one line, and I know you said to give us a one word answer, but as properties and as chains, we need to start thinking local. We need to start thinking regional and national. International will follow. International is always there. We'll come back when the times are good and the borders are open. So as an organization, we've started doing many things locally and regionally.
So does it mean there's going to be a shift in the way the companies are organized, and it's going to move from being global to being more local?
I think it'll be a mix. So you may need to just redeploy some resources from global to regional or local, because that market needs to be developed. We've ignored it for the last 30 years because we always assumed the international, global market was feeding us enough. So that little bit of redeployment happened, but they will coexist.
Okay. Julien, is that your view as well?
Completely agreed. It will not be dominant moving forward, but it will stay definitely.
Okay, we've got a question in the chat, from the audience. How will TMCs change focused post-COVID?
I think that one we've taken. Can we?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, with the experience.
I'm sorry. Yes. No. Yes. What is the opinion of the panel about the
FIT
partners? Will those partners coming back with the old-fashioned way of working on fit net rates? Do you guys have an opinion about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And for the moment, it will we'll have to continue working like this. Because depending on the market, but on some markets, they're mainly working with dynamic rates already, which becomes an habit, which is fine, and it will continue. So most of the markets, for instance, Paris, we're working a lot with net rates. It will continue for a little while. Unfortunately for hotels, but that's something that's a big project for hotels moving in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, so we only have 1 or 2 minutes. So if you can, in 30 seconds, let's travel not to a destination, but let's travel to the near future. We are in 2023 or 2024. What does the industry look like in your opinion? In 30 seconds.
23, 24, it will hopefully be back to what it was in 2019, with certain changes and new social behavior of both the industry and the consumers, and things should be back to normal. Hopefully this pandemic is forgotten by 2024 and 25. There'll be great learnings for all of us, but we shall move on. This too shall pass. Okay.
Thank you very much. Julien?
Importance of gathering with friends and family, back to basics sometimes, wellness, well-being as well will be important, sustainability, communities, I just said. Digital will take importance as well in the travel. And as Saurabh said, it's going to be packed again, and it will start very soon, so be ready.
So basically an acceleration of some of the existing trends already.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So thank you very much. I think, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank Saurabh, Julien, for their fantastic contributions when it comes to trying to understanding those new behaviors. And thank you to HSMAI as well for these sessions. Let's not forget that there is a session next Tuesday as well, and that this Thursday there will be the Sales Leader Forum. If you want to register, please go on the website and enroll yourself. And that was it. So I just want to thank everyone. I just want to thank the audience for their participation and contribution. And I'll hope to speak to you very soon, and stay in your hotels.
Thank you all.
Very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.